The clink of handcuffs echoed through the hallowed marble halls, a stark metallic counterpoint to the hushed whispers of scandal. Patricia Whitmore, her face a mask of terror, stumbled forward, her carefully coiffed hair now disheveled, her formidable presence utterly shattered. "You people!" she had snarled just moments before, her eyes spitting contempt at the man who now watched her downfall, a chilling satisfaction etched on his face. "You people always think rules don't apply to you." But the rules, it seemed, were about to be rewritten, and her own world was collapsing around her. A gasp rippled through the onlookers as she was led past the very cafeteria where she had, for years, presided over a cruel kingdom of segregation and humiliation. This nightmare, however, began hours earlier, with a father's simple desire to bring his daughter lunch. 6 hours prior, the life of Jonathan Hayes unfolded within the controlled chaos of his Washington, D.C. office. Papers, reports, and digital screens vied for space across his expansive mahogany desk. Budget forecasts, reform proposals, investigation files, each a testament to the immense responsibility resting on his shoulders. The polished brass nameplate affixed to his door bore the unambiguous title, Secretary of Education, United States Department of Education. 3 months. 3 grueling, relentless months in this pivotal role, dedicating 14-hour days to the Sisyphean task of mending a profoundly fractured system, attempting to reshape it from its very apex. A gentle vibration from his phone jarred him from his thoughts. The screen illuminated, displaying a vibrant reminder. Maya's birthday, 12 years old today. Jonathan leaned back into the plush leather of his executive chair, a sigh escaping his lips. When had his little girl truly turned 12? The passage of time felt like a relentless current, pulling him further from moments he desperately wished to cling to. When was the last time they'd shared breakfast? A quiet morning moment before the world intruded. A week? Perhaps 2? The precise memory eluded him, a sharp pang of guilt piercing through his chest. He scrolled through recent messages from Maya. They were invariably brief, relentlessly cheerful, almost too bright. "School's good, Dad. Don't worry about me. Focus on your work." Each text a tiny, self-sacrificing shield she held up, trying to protect him from her own world. A soft rap on his door announced the arrival of his assistant, a young woman whose efficiency bordered on clairvoyance. "Sir, the conference call with Governor Davies is scheduled to begin in 5 minutes." Jonathan's gaze remained fixed on his phone, on Maya's innocent, smiling face. The photograph, taken last year, captured her beaming on her first day at Piton Academy. She was resplendent in her crisp new uniform, a beacon of pride radiating from her eyes. He had meticulously selected Piton, poring over brochures and reviews. It was touted as the finest private school in the state. Its exorbitant $45,000 annual tuition presented as a small price to pay for the inclusive, progressive environment they so confidently promised. Their glossy brochures showcased a mosaic of diverse students, all seemingly laughing, learning, and thriving together in perfect harmony. Maya, he reasoned, deserved nothing less, not after the devastating loss of her mother 3 years prior. Maya deserved every conceivable good fortune the world could offer. "Cancel the call," Jonathan stated abruptly, his voice cutting through the office's quiet hum. His assistant blinked, surprised by the unexpected command. "Sir?" "Cancel it," he repeated, his tone firm. "Reschedule for tomorrow." He grabbed his coat, a sudden, fierce resolve gripping him. "I'm going to see my daughter." The drive from downtown D.C. to Piton Academy stretched for 2 hours, each mile a silent reckoning. For the first 30 minutes, Jonathan succumbed to habit, his voice a low murmur against the Bluetooth speaker as he navigated policy discussions, budget negotiations, and the perpetual maelstrom of his professional life. But then, with a conscious effort, he silenced the digital clamor. He switched off his phone, rolled down the windows, and allowed the crisp, invigorating spring air to rush into the car, carrying with it the scent of blooming life and forgotten possibilities. His thoughts drifted back to Maya, their phone call the previous night. Her voice had sounded different, a subtle undertone of fatigue, a distant quality he couldn't quite pinpoint. When he'd inquired if everything was all right, her answer had been the familiar, unwavering, "Yes, Dad." Always yes. But beneath the practiced reassurance, he now recalled a fleeting hesitation, a catch in her breath, almost imperceptible. He had dismissed it then, attributing it to the rigors of schoolwork, the natural adjustment to a new environment. Now that faint hesitation gnawed at him, a tiny, insistent worm of doubt. Jonathan steered his car into the parking lot of a small, unassuming deli nestled near the school campus. This was their place, a cherished sanctuary he and Maya had frequented before her mother's passing, their special spot filled with echoes of shared laughter and simple joys. He walked inside, the bell above the door chiming softly, a familiar melody. He ordered 2 turkey and Swiss sandwiches with extra pickles, Maya's unwavering favorite. The woman behind the counter, her face lined with gentle familiarity, offered a warm smile. "Haven't seen you around in a while, Mr. Hayes." "Work," Jonathan replied, the single word laden with a lifetime of missed moments. "Too much work." He felt a fresh wave of shame wash over him. Would Maya truly be happy to see him? He had been so terribly absent lately, so consumed by his grand, nationwide mission to reform education, so utterly focused on aiding millions of nameless children that he had, inadvertently, neglected the one child who mattered most of all. He had forgotten to simply show up for her. Patan Academy rose before him, a colossal monument to wealth and privilege. Its imposing stone columns, meticulously manicured lawns, and the ornate fountain shimmering in the central courtyard, it exuded an air of impenetrable grandeur. He walked toward the main office, a sense of unease settling upon him. He presented his driver's license, not his federal credentials. Today, he was Jonathan Hayes, Maya's father, just a regular parent. The secretary, a woman whose disinterest was palpable, barely glanced up from her computer. "Sign in here, visitor badge." She pushed a generic yellow sticker across the counter, the word visitor emblazoned in bold, impersonal letters. "You know where the cafeteria is?" "Yes, thank you," he managed, the words feeling hollow. He pinned the badge to his jacket, a strange sense of anonymity enveloping him. He navigated the hushed corridors, his footsteps strangely amplified by the polished marble floors and the dark, gleaming wood panels. Photos of distinguished alumni, a relentless parade of uniformly white faces, lined the walls, century after century of inherited privilege silently judging him. He forcibly pushed the uncomfortable thought away. "This is a good school," he reminded himself. They accepted Maya. They promised opportunity, equality, excellence. The sounds of laughter and lively conversation drifted from the cafeteria doors ahead. Normal, happy, safe. Jonathan allowed a small smile to touch his lips. He would surprise Maya. They would eat lunch together. Perhaps he'd even whisk her away for the afternoon. A spontaneous escape to compensate for lost time, to bridge the chasm his demanding career had carved between them. He adjusted the brown paper bag in his hand, a simple offering of love. He pushed open the double doors, and the world tilted on its axis. His smile vanished, replaced by a visceral shock that froze him in place. He saw Maya's face crumple, her youthful features contorting in a silent agony. A tall, severe woman, starkly white, gripped his daughter's arm, twisting it with deliberate cruelty. He watched in slow motion as Maya stumbled, her lunch tray crashing to the polished floor, food splattering in a grotesque mosaic. Milk, white as innocence, fanned across the tiles. Tears streamed down Maya's cheeks, carving glistening paths through the porcelain-smooth skin. He heard words, sharp, venomous whispers that cut through the cafeteria's general din. Scholarship trash, diversity quota, you people. The paper bag containing Maya's favorite turkey and Swiss slipped from his numb fingers, hitting the floor with a soft, unnoticed thud. Nobody heard it because all eyes were on Maya, watching her humiliation. Some students laughed, their mirth a cruel chorus. Some, detached and callous, recorded the scene on their phones. Others simply stared, silent, complicit. Jonathan stood paralyzed, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to process the horrifying tableau unfolding before him. This was the school he had chosen, the school he had trusted, the school he paid $45,000 a year to keep his daughter safe. Jonathan remained rooted to the spot, a statue of disbelief. His mind wrestled with the jarring dissonance between the glossy brochures and the brutal reality unfolding before his eyes. Patan Academy, the paragon of inclusive education with its website adorned with diversity awards and effusive testimonials from happy families, felt like a cruel mirage. This couldn't be real. Maya, her uniform now stained with milk, slowly pushed herself up from the floor. The white woman, Mrs. Whitmore, loomed over her, arms crossed, her face a mask of cold disgust. "Clean that up now," she commanded, her voice devoid of empathy. "Yes, Mrs. Whitmore," Maya whispered, her voice barely audible as she knelt, her hands trembling uncontrollably, beginning to gather the scattered remnants of her lunch. Other students ambled past, stepping over her as if she were an inconvenient obstacle. A few giggled. One, with a casual, almost practiced cruelty, kicked a piece of bread further away, extending Maya's humiliation. Jonathan's feet twitched, an instinct to intervene surging through him. But then a more primal, strategic impulse took hold. Wait, look, understand what's happening here. He moved, deliberately, positioning himself behind a thick support column, obscuring himself from view. He pulled out his phone, his thumb pressing the record button. The cafeteria's true layout, its hidden social architecture, slowly revealed itself to him, like a curtain drawing back on a stage. In the center, bathed in the natural light streaming through tall windows, were spacious tables with cushioned chairs. Perhaps 40 students occupied these seats, laughing freely, eating with relaxed ease. Every single one of them, he noted with a chilling certainty, was white. In the far corner, tucked away near the kitchen entrance, by the trash bins and the loading dock door, sat another group. Hard wooden benches, flickering fluorescent lights that buzzed with an irritating hum. 7 students, all black or Latino, their heads bowed, eating quickly, desperately attempting to render themselves invisible. An invisible wall, thick and unyielding, bisected the room. Not a physical barrier, but an absolutely unbreachable one. Jonathan's chest tightened, a searing pain blooming within him. How could he have been so blind? How had he failed to see this? Maya finished her degrading task, her small frame still trembling. She carried her ruined lunch, now a soggy testament to her public shaming, toward the shadowed corner section. As she approached, a group of white girls, their laughter abruptly ceasing, stood up in a synchronized movement. The one in front, with a venomous smirk, was Brittany Whitmore. Jonathan recognized her from a parent orientation session he'd vaguely attended, Patricia Whitmore's granddaughter. "Watch where you're going, scholarship girl," Brittany sneered, her voice dripping with condescension. "Sorry, I just need to—" Maya started, her voice a fragile whisper. "You just need to remember your place," Brittany interjected, shoving Maya's shoulder with unnecessary force. "My grandmother runs this cafeteria. She says you people should eat outside with the garbage." A ripple of cruel laughter snaked through the nearby tables. Phones materialized, recording the spectacle. This was entertainment. Maya, head bowed, her spirit crushed, moved past them, finding a solitary seat at the very end of a hard bench. Even the other students of color, those confined to the same invisible ghetto, kept their distance, as if Maya's humiliation might be contagious. Jonathan's finger pressed harder on the record button, his knuckles white against the column as his other hand gripped it, a desperate anchor. A young teacher, mid-20s, Latina, walked past Maya. Her eyes, filled with a fleeting moment of what seemed like sympathy or perhaps guilt, met Maya's tear-stained face, but then, almost imperceptibly, she looked away, continuing her path. Another teacher, an older white man with a distinguished shock of gray hair, stood a mere 10 feet from where Brittany had shoved Maya. He had witnessed the entire incident, yet he had done nothing. Now, he casually chatted with other faculty members, a hearty laugh escaping him at some shared joke. The system here, Jonathan realized with a chilling clarity, wasn't broken. It was functioning precisely as it was designed to. Patricia Whitmore herself emerged from the kitchen area, a formidable figure who surveyed her domain with the authoritative air of a general inspecting her troops. Her gaze swept across the pristine center tables, a flicker of satisfaction in her eyes, before settling with a predatory intensity on the corner. She marched across the cafeteria, her sensible shoes striking the floor with a series of sharp, commanding clicks. "Maya Hayes!" Her voice, a whip crack of authority, sliced through the air. Maya jumped, startled, her head snapping up. "Yes, ma'am?" "Did you try to sit at a premium table again?" Patricia demanded, her voice laced with accusation. "I just thought maybe—" "You thought wrong." Patricia grabbed Maya's chin, forcing her to meet her gaze, a cruel glint in her eyes. "How many times do I have to explain this? Those tables are reserved for families who contribute. Real families, not affirmative action cases. My dad pays the same tuition as—" The sharp, stinging sound of a slap echoed through the cafeteria. It wasn't hard enough to leave a physical mark, but it was potent enough to sting, to shock, to brutally establish dominance. Conversations died. Students, startled, turned to watch. Patricia leaned down, her face inches from Maya's, her voice a low, menacing hiss. "Don't you dare talk back to me. Your kind gets in here through quotas, through pity. You want to sit at the good tables? Tell your daddy to donate a building. Until then, you eat where I tell you to eat." Maya's bottom lip trembled violently. She bit down on it, fighting back a fresh wave of tears, desperately clinging to whatever fragile remnants of dignity she still possessed. Jonathan's vision blurred, a crimson haze creeping in from the edges of his sight. His daughter, his baby girl, taking this abuse, this raw, unadulterated cruelty from this monstrous woman. He started forward, an uncontrollable surge of rage propelling him, but he stopped himself again. No. Get it all. Every single damning second. Ensure there was no doubt, no room for denial, no way for them to explain it away. A young Latino boy, perhaps 13, hesitantly raised his hand at a nearby table. "Mrs. Whitmore, may I please get more water?" Patricia didn't even deign to look at him. "You had your chance during your designated refill time. Sit down." "But I'm really thirsty," the boy pleaded, his voice cracking. "I have soccer practice after school." "I said sit down." Patricia's voice, sharp as a whip, cracked across the room. "You diversity students get one water refill. One. If you can't manage that, bring water from home." Defeated, the boy lowered his hand, slumping back onto his bench. Jonathan watched as, moments later, a white student casually rose, walked to the water fountain, filled his bottle, and returned to his table. Not a single word was uttered to him. 2 minutes later, another white student did the same, then another. The rules, Jonathan understood with a sickening certainty, weren't rules at all. They were weapons, selectively wielded, meticulously designed to remind certain students of their perpetual otherness, their fundamental lack of belonging. A black girl around 14 stood up with her empty tray, beginning to walk toward the trash bin situated near the center tables, the most direct route. Patricia materialized in front of her, an intimidating obstacle, her movements swift and predatory. "Where do you think you're going with that trash, young lady?" "Ma'am, I'm just going to—" "Not through here, you're not. Scholarship students use the bins by the back door." "But that's all the way—" Did I stutter? Patricia's finger pointed with imperious authority. "Back door. Now, before I write you up for insubordination." The girl's shoulders slumped. She turned, embarking on the long, circuitous route past the kitchen, past the loading dock, to deposit her trash in a bin that was likely 50 yards from her starting point. Jonathan's phone timer now displayed 12 minutes of footage, 12 minutes of systematic, deliberate, crushing discrimination. And Maya had endured this every single day. For how long? How many months? She had started at Piton in September. It was now April. 7 months. 7 months of eating lunch in a shadowed corner, of being shoved, of being slapped, of being relentlessly reminded that she did not belong. 7 months of coming home and with a brave, heartbreaking smile declaring, "School's good, Dad." 7 months of protecting him from this horrific truth. His baby girl, his brave, beautiful baby girl, carrying this immense weight alone because she didn't want to burden him, didn't want to distract him from his important work. What kind of father was he? Patricia Whitmore returned to the center of the cafeteria, her chest puffed out, a triumphant glint in her eye. She clapped her hands twice, the sharp, authoritative sound cutting through the remaining chatter. "Attention, attention, everyone!" Students quieted, their gazes drawn to her. "I want to remind you all of the cafeteria standards at Piton Academy. This is an institution built on excellence, built by families who value quality, who value tradition." She gestured grandly toward the central tables, a proprietorial sweep of her hand. "These families have contributed millions to make this school great. They deserve premium treatment." She then pivoted, her finger pointing directly at the corner, at Maya, at the other students of color. Her voice dropped, laden with thinly veiled contempt. "And these students, they're here because the government forces us to hit diversity numbers, because we have to check boxes to keep our funding. But make no mistake, there is a hierarchy here. There is an order, and everyone needs to respect it." A few parents seated at volunteer tables nodded in agreement. One woman even offered a smattering of polite applause. Patricia's eyes, cold and calculating, landed on Maya again. Some people don't understand their place. Some people think they can just sit anywhere, do anything, act like they're equal to students whose families actually built this place. She walked over, stopping directly above Maya, casting a long, intimidating shadow. But they're not equal, are they, Maya? Maya stared at her lap, silent, wishing herself invisible. I asked you a question. Are you equal to the real Piton students? Maya's voice was a broken whisper, barely audible. No, ma'am. Louder, Patricia commanded, a cruel smile playing on her lips. So everyone can hear. No, ma'am, Maya repeated, tears dripping onto her skirt, staining the fabric. That's right, you're not, and you never will be. Patricia straightened up, a look of smug satisfaction on her face, pleased with her lesson. She turned and walked back toward the kitchen, the self-appointed queen of her domain. Jonathan's hands trembled violently. His phone, still recording, nearly slipped from his grasp. 17 minutes of footage now. 17 minutes of his daughter being systematically destroyed, piece by agonizing piece. Enough. More than enough evidence. Enough observation. Enough restraint. He stepped out from behind the column, his movements deliberate, controlled. He slipped the phone into his jacket pocket, ensuring the audio would continue to capture every incriminating word. He began to walk across the cafeteria. His footsteps in the suddenly hushed room seemed impossibly loud, echoing like a death knell. Students turned, their conversations faltering. Something in his grim expression, the rigid set of his jaw, the raw anger simmering beneath the surface, made people nervous. He reached Maya's table, his hand gently settling on her trembling shoulder. She looked up, her eyes wide with a mixture of relief and terror. Dad? Her face transformed, a desperate hope crashing into overwhelming fear. Happy he was here, terrified of what his presence might mean. Hi, baby, Jonathan whispered, his voice remarkably calm, controlled, a thin veneer over a roaring inferno. I brought you lunch. Patricia Whitmore, now noticing the newcomer, turned and strode back, her triumphant expression quickly morphing into one of annoyance. And who are you? She demanded, her gaze sweeping over Jonathan, dismissing him in a single, contemptuous glance. Jonathan looked at her, really looked at her. He etched every line of her arrogant face into his memory. This woman, this cruel, entitled woman who had dared to hurt his child. This woman was about to learn the searing, unforgettable taste of justice. I'm Maya's father, he stated, his voice still unnervingly level. And we need to talk about what you've been doing to my daughter. Patricia's eyes narrowed, a flicker of irritation replacing her earlier smugness. Your daughter has been repeatedly violating cafeteria protocols, she began, a practiced spiel. She refuses to follow simple instructions about seating arrangements. Seating arrangements? Jonathan's voice remained dangerously calm. You mean segregation? The word, raw and incendiary, hung in the air like choking smoke. Gasps rippled through the nearby tables. Patricia's face flushed a vivid, angry red. How dare you! This is about maintaining order, about respecting the families who fund this institution. Your daughter sits where scholarship students sit. That's policy. My daughter isn't on scholarship, Jonathan interjected, his voice gaining a subtle edge. I pay full tuition, $45,000. Patricia scoffed, a disbelieving laugh escaping her. I've reviewed every file in this cafeteria. Maya Hayes, diversity admission, accepted through the Equity Initiative, which means scholarship, which means she follows scholarship rules. Diversity admission doesn't mean scholarship, Jonathan corrected, his voice hardening. She earned her spot, and I pay full freight. Patricia laughed again, a sharp, mocking sound filled with disdain. Sure you do. And I'm supposed to believe a man who shows up in a cheap suit and drives a 10-year-old sedan pays 45 grand? Please. Maya, mortified, tugged desperately on Jonathan's sleeve. Dad, let's just go. Please. He gently squeezed her hand, offering a silent reassurance. Not yet, baby. Patricia stepped closer, invading his personal space, her voice dropping to a menacing whisper. Listen to me very carefully. I don't know what story you told admissions. I don't care. But in my cafeteria, there are rules. Premium donors get premium treatment. Your kind gets what's left over. Don't like it? There's the door. My kind? Jonathan's jaw tightened, a muscle clenching visibly. Oh, don't start with the race card, Patricia sneered, rolling her eyes with theatrical exasperation. I'm talking about income, about contribution, about people who actually matter to this school's success versus people who are here to make us look diverse in the brochures. A white man in a crisp suit approached, late 50s, with distinguished gray hair. Principal David Anderson. Jonathan recognized him from Maya's orientation. Anderson's brow furrowed, a practiced display of disapproval. Is there a problem here, Patricia? This man, Patricia declared, her voice rising in outrage, is disrupting lunch service, harassing staff, and making baseless accusations. Anderson turned to Jonathan, his expression a cold mask. He didn't ask for Jonathan's side. He didn't inquire about what had happened. He simply frowned. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave campus. I'm asking why my daughter is being segregated and abused, Jonathan stated, his voice resonating with controlled power. Segregated? Anderson's voice dripped with condescension. That's a serious allegation. Do you have any evidence to support such a claim? Jonathan patted his jacket pocket, a faint smile playing on his lips. Yes, I do. Let me see it. No, Jonathan replied, the word clipped and final. Not yet. Anderson's expression hardened, his patience wearing thin. Then I'm afraid you need to leave now, before I have security remove you. I have a right to know why my daughter is being mistreated. Your daughter isn't being mistreated. Anderson gestured vaguely around the cafeteria, a grand sweep of his hand. She's eating lunch in a safe, clean environment. If you have complaints about seating arrangements, you can schedule a formal meeting with my office, but you will not storm in here during lunch service and cause a scene. Patricia stepped forward again, emboldened by Anderson's support, sensing an ally. Do you know how many calls I get from parents complaining about diversity students? She confided, her voice thick with self-pity. Dozens. They pay premium prices and don't want their children sitting next to charity cases. We have to balance everyone's needs by making 12-year-olds eat next to garbage bins. She waved her hand dismissively toward Maya's corner. That corner has the same food, the same tables, the same access to education as everywhere else. If your daughter feels excluded, that's a personal problem, not a school problem. Maya, overwhelmed by the renewed assault, began crying harder, her small shoulders shaking uncontrollably. Other students stared, some still recording on their phones. This was content, drama, entertainment. Jonathan knelt beside his daughter, his voice a balm. Baby, look at me. We're going to fix this. Dad, please, Maya sobbed, her words muffled. I just want to go home. Patricia's voice, sharp and unsympathetic, cut through the moment. Actually, she's not going anywhere. It's school hours. Students can't leave without proper authorization. Jonathan stood, his resolve firm. I'm her father. I'm taking her home. Not without filling out an early dismissal form, not without approval from the administration. Patricia pulled out her phone, a malicious glint in her eye. In fact, given your hostile behavior, I'm calling security. Hostile behavior? Jonathan's voice rose, a tremor of pure indignation entering it for the first time. I asked questions about discrimination. You're aggressive, confrontational, Patricia declared into her phone, twisting the narrative. Your body language is threatening. Security to the cafeteria, she announced into the receiver. We have a potentially dangerous situation. Dangerous? Jonathan scoffed, disbelief etched on his face. I'm standing here talking. Anderson held up a placating hand. Sir, you need to calm down. Your escalating tone is exactly what we're concerned about. My escalating tone? Jonathan's voice, now vibrating with raw fury, echoed through the vast space. Your staff is segregating children, and you're worried about my tone. Just then, 2 security guards arrived. Burly figures, both white, moving with practiced efficiency. They positioned themselves on either side of Jonathan, their presence a silent threat. Mr. Hayes, I'm going to ask you one more time to leave voluntarily, Anderson stated, his voice now cold, professional, practiced. If you refuse, these gentlemen will escort you out, and we will file a no trespass order. A no trespass order, Jonathan repeated, his voice laced with incredulity. For asking why my daughter is being discriminated against? For causing a disturbance? For refusing to follow school protocols? For creating an unsafe environment? Patricia interjected, seizing the opportunity to amplify the charges. And given your aggressive behavior, we'll need to review Maya's enrollment. We can't have parents who threaten staff, who who create hostile situations. That violates our code of conduct." Maya, her eyes wide with terror, clutched Jonathan's arm. "Dad, no, please, they'll expel me. Please, just go, I'll be okay." "You won't be okay," Jonathan whispered, his heart shattering. "This isn't okay." "I'll deal with it. I have been dealing with it. Please don't make it worse." Jonathan's soul fractured. His daughter was begging him to abandon her to this nightmare, to walk away, to allow the cruelty to continue. She was more afraid of expulsion than of enduring further abuse. Anderson, witnessing Maya's plea, nodded to the security guards. "Gentlemen, please escort Mr. Hayes off campus." The guards moved in, their grip on Jonathan's arms firm, not gentle enough to avoid bruising. "Get your hands off me," Jonathan demanded. "Don't resist, sir," one guard muttered, his voice flat. "This will be easier if you cooperate." Patricia stood back, arms crossed, a triumphant smirk playing on her lips. "You should have known your place, should have taught your daughter to know hers. But no, you people always think rules don't apply to you." "You people," Jonathan repeated, stopping his struggle, allowing the words to hang in the air, a chilling accusation. "Say that again, slowly." Patricia's smile widened, a truly ugly thing. "You people, the ones who get in through quotas, through forced diversity, the ones who don't contribute, who don't belong, who drag down our standards just by being here." The guards pulled Jonathan backward, forcibly guiding him toward the exit. Students watched, some snickering. Brittany Whitmore stood with her friends, phone still raised, recording every second. "This is going straight to TikTok. Scholarship Dad gets owned." Anderson walked alongside the guards, his voice a final, cold pronouncement. "Mr. Hayes, you are now banned from this campus. Any further attempts to enter will result in immediate arrest for criminal trespass. Additionally, we will be reviewing Maya's enrollment status. Given her family's inability to respect school authority, we may determine this isn't the right fit." Jonathan's feet dragged, heavy with disbelief and rage. The guards pulled harder. Maya followed, her small body racked with sobs. "Please, don't expel me. Please, this is the only good school. If I get expelled, my record—" Patricia's voice, sharp and unforgiving, called after them. "Maybe you should have thought about that before your father came in here acting like a thug. Actions have consequences, sweetheart. You're about to learn that lesson." They reached the cafeteria exit. The guards shoved Jonathan through, not hard enough to make him fall, but with sufficient force to inflict a final, humiliating indignity. Other parents, seated at volunteer tables, watched. Some looked uncomfortable, their eyes shifting away. Most, however, looked satisfied. Order had been restored, the troublemaker removed, problem solved. Anderson stood in the doorway, physically blocking Maya from following her father. "Miss Hayes, return to your seat. Finish your lunch. We'll discuss your behavioral issues later." "But my dad, your father is no longer your concern right now. School policy is your concern. Now go sit down before I add insubordination to the list of problems we're documenting." Maya looked at Jonathan, her eyes pleading, desperate for help, for rescue, for anything. He couldn't give it to her. Not yet. "Maya, listen to me," Jonathan said, his voice imbued with an almost unnatural calm. "Go back inside. Sit down. Keep your head up. Everything is about to change, I promise you." "How?" she cried, her voice cracking. "They're kicking you out. They're going to expel me. Trust me, baby. One more hour. Just hold on for one more hour." Anderson, impatient, pulled Maya back inside, slamming the heavy door shut. The ominous click of the lock echoed in the sudden silence. Jonathan stood alone in the parking lot, the guards flanking him until he reached his car. "You heard the principal. You're not welcome here. Don't come back." Jonathan opened his car door, sinking into the driver's seat. He pulled out his phone. The recording was still running. 28 minutes of footage, clear audio, undeniable evidence. He scrolled through his contacts, his fingers moving with a terrifying precision. He made his first call. "FBI Civil Rights Division," he stated, his voice resonating with cold authority. "This is Secretary Jonathan Hayes. I need to activate an emergency federal investigation. I have documentation of systematic civil rights violations at a federally funded institution. I need a team at Peton Academy in 30 minutes. "Sir, can you verify your identity?" the voice on the other end responded, a hint of skepticism. Jonathan recited his federal ID number, his authorization code, his direct line to the director. Verified, Mr. Secretary, the voice affirmed, now laced with urgent respect. Dispatching team now. What's the nature of the violations? Racial segregation, systematic discrimination against minor children, hostile environment, federal fund misappropriation, and assault on a federal official. A beat of stunned silence. Sir, did you say assault on a federal official? Yes, Jonathan confirmed, his voice like ice. They put their hands on me, forcibly removed me, all captured on video. I want federal charges filed within the hour. Understood, sir. Team is mobilizing. Jonathan made his second call, the Department of Justice. His third, the Deputy Secretary of Education. His fourth, White House Counsel. His fifth, the media. Then he started his car, drove exactly 1 block, parked where he could clearly see the school entrance, and waited. Patricia Whitmore, her face flushed with triumph, returned to the cafeteria. She clapped her hands twice, a loud, attention-grabbing sound. Attention! Attention, everyone! Students looked up. Teachers turned, their expressions a mix of curiosity and relief. I want you all to witness what happens when people don't respect authority, when they don't know their place. She pointed dramatically toward Maya's corner. That girl's father just got permanently banned from this campus, and her enrollment is under review. Let this be a lesson. Peton has standards. We don't tolerate troublemakers. Scattered applause erupted from the center tables. Brittany Whitmore whooped, "Bye-bye, scholarship girl." Maya sat frozen, tears streaming silently down her face, her spirit utterly broken. Patricia walked over, leaned down, her voice a cruel whisper. Your father should have taught you better, should have taught you to be grateful for what you have. Now you'll probably lose it all. Such a shame. Principal Anderson entered, joining Patricia. They spoke in low tones, both smiling, confident in their victory. Crisis averted. Order maintained. Anderson pulled out his phone, already typing. I'm drafting the expulsion letter now. We'll cite parental misconduct, hostile family environment, threat to campus safety. Make sure it's airtight, Patricia instructed. I don't want any appeals. I want her gone by Monday. Done, Anderson confirmed. I'll have legal review it this afternoon. They high-fived. Actually high-fived. 2 adults, celebrating the destruction of a child's future. Outside, a low hum grew, distant at first, then louder, rhythmic, mechanical. Whump, 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 whump. Students rushed to the windows, pointing at the sky. A sleek, black, unmarked helicopter descended toward the athletic field, its rotors kicking up a storm. Then another sound, sirens, multiple vehicles. The parking lot filled rapidly with dark SUVs and sedans, their lights flashing, painting the manicured lawns with an urgent, pulsating glow. Patricia frowned, walking to the window. What on earth? Anderson's face went pale. More vehicles arrived. Local news vans, their satellite dishes gleaming, cameras, reporters already setting up on the lawn. The cafeteria doors burst open. 15 federal agents, clad in dark suits and tactical vests, their weapons holstered but visible, stormed in. They moved with military precision, positioning themselves at every exit, securing the perimeter. An agent in front, a woman with an unreadable expression, held up credentials. FBI, everyone remains calm. Stay seated. This is an official federal investigation. Patricia's mouth fell open, a silent gasp. Investigation of what? Who called you? Ma'am, we'll explain shortly, the agent replied, her voice firm. Right now, we need Principal Anderson and Patricia Whitmore to come with us. Anderson stepped forward, a tremor in his voice. I'm Principal Anderson. There must be some mistake. We're a private educational institution. We haven't... No mistake, sir, the agent interrupted, her voice devoid of negotiation. Please come with us to your office now. The agents weren't asking. They were commanding. Patricia and Anderson exchanged bewildered, nervous glances, but still confident, still believing their authority held sway. They walked toward the main office. Agents surrounded them, flanking them like suspects. The office door opened. More agents were already inside, having secured the space, their presence a stark indication of federal power. Computers, files, everything. And sitting in Anderson's opulent chair, calm as a Sunday morning, was Jonathan Hayes. Patricia's eyes went wide, a strangled sound escaping her throat. You? Sit down, Mrs. Whitmore. I will not, she protested, her voice regaining some of its old haughtiness. Security! Get this man out of my... An agent stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. Ma'am, sit down. The command in his voice left no room for argument. Patricia crumpled into a chair. Anderson, his face ashen, collapsed into another. His hands shook visibly. Jonathan stood, reached into his jacket, and pulled out a leather credential case. He placed it deliberately on the desk, flipping it open. The federal seal gleamed under the fluorescent lights. United States Department of Education, Office of the Secretary, Jonathan Hayes. The words hit Patricia like bullets. Her face drained of color, turning first white, then a sickly gray. She gripped the armrests of her chair, her knuckles white. "Secretary? You're the Secretary of Education?" "Yes," Jonathan confirmed, his voice chillingly calm. "The person who controls every federal dollar that flows into this institution." Anderson made a choking sound, his eyes rolling back in his head. He slumped forward, unconscious. An agent swiftly caught him before he hit the desk. "Someone get him water," the lead FBI agent instructed, "and a medic if he doesn't come around." Patricia stared at the badge, then at Jonathan, then at the agents surrounding them. Her mouth moved, but no sound emerged. Jonathan pulled out his phone and connected it to Anderson's computer. The large monitor on the wall flickered to life. "I'm going to show you something I want you to watch carefully." The video played, crystal clear, the audio perfect. Patricia's voice boomed through the office. "Maya Hayes, get back to the scholarship section." Her grabbing Maya's arm, the slap, the shove. "Your kind gets in here through quotas, through pity." Every word, every action. 28 minutes of undeniable, damning footage. Patricia shook her head frantically. "That's not... I didn't mean... It's out of context." "Out of context?" Jonathan's voice, though still eerily calm, held an undertone of immense power. "Which part? The part where you hit my daughter? The part where you called us, you people? The part where you threatened to destroy her future?" Anderson, having been revived with a splash of water, gasped as he saw the video. He watched himself standing there, doing nothing, then ordering Jonathan's removal. "Oh God. Oh my God," he stammered, his face a mask of dawning horror. "Let me tell you what's happening right now," Jonathan said, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. "As we speak, your federal funding is being frozen. $12 million. Gone." Patricia gasped, a sound of sheer terror. "You can't." "I can," Jonathan replied, his gaze unwavering. "And I did, 30 minutes ago." He turned to the lead FBI agent. "Agent Morrison, please read them their rights." "Wait!" Patricia shot to her feet, her voice a desperate plea. An agent gently but firmly pushed her back down. "Wait, please, I didn't know who you were. If I'd known..." "If you'd known, you would have what?" Jonathan leaned forward, his voice a low, dangerous growl. "Treated my daughter like a human being? Only treated her with dignity because her father has power?" He straightened, his eyes blazing. "That's exactly the problem, Mrs. Whitmore." Agent Morrison stepped forward, her voice clear and authoritative. "Patricia Whitmore, David Anderson, you are both under arrest for violation of federal civil rights law, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. You have the right to remain silent." Patricia's face crumpled. Tears began to stream down her cheeks. Real tears now, born not of righteous anger, but of pure, unadulterated terror. "Please, please," she sobbed. "I have grandchildren. I've worked here for 30 years. I'll lose my pension, my reputation, everything." Jonathan thought of Maya's small, shaking form, her tears, her begging him to leave so she wouldn't be expelled. "You should have thought about that before you hurt children." Agent Morrison pulled out handcuffs. The metallic click echoed ominously as they were secured around Patricia's wrists, then Anderson's. "No, no, please, not in front of everyone, please." But the agents led them out, through the main office, into the hallway where students and teachers watched through windows, past the cafeteria where Maya sat, still frozen, still not fully comprehending. Out the front doors, where a phalanx of news cameras waited, where the world was watching. Patricia Whitmore, handcuffed, crying, destroyed, precisely as she deserved. The FBI vehicle pulled away, carrying Patricia and Anderson in its back seat, their humiliation now broadcast for all to see. Cameras captured everything. The video would be viral within the hour. Jonathan stood on the front steps. Deputy Secretary Maria Carter arrived in a sleek black sedan, having driven from D.C. the moment his call came in. "Mr. Secretary, the building is secure. Federal oversight is active." Jonathan nodded. "Convene emergency assembly. Everyone, 15 minutes, inside the cafeteria." Inside? Chaos erupted. Teachers struggled to maintain order amidst the flurry of questions, accusations, and mounting panic. Maya sat frozen in her corner, a small, solitary figure. A young Latina teacher, Miss Rodriguez, knelt beside her. "Honey, is that man really your father, the Secretary of Education?" Maya nodded, unable to speak, tears still tracing paths down her cheeks. "Oh, God," Miss Rodriguez whispered, her voice thick with guilt. "I should have helped you. I'm so sorry." Other students, the ones who had mocked and ignored her, now backed away from Maya's table. The girl they had dismissed as scholarship trash now possessed power. Real power. Federal power. Brittany Whitmore frantically texted her grandmother, but received no response. She tried calling, only to be met with voicemail. Her hands shook uncontrollably. Her friends whispered, their faces pale. "Your grandma got arrested. We're screwed. Delete your videos." Too late. The FBI had already subpoenaed the school's servers. Every post, every video, every text message, all evidence. Just then, the PA system crackled to life. All students and staff report to the gymnasium immediately. Mandatory assembly. The gymnasium filled within minutes. 450 students, 60 staff members, their faces a mix of fear and confusion. Federal agents lined the walls, silent, professional, and utterly intimidating. Jonathan entered, Deputy Secretary Carter beside him. 3 FBI agents following close behind. A complete, suffocating silence fell over the room. Jonathan walked to center court, no microphone needed. His voice, now resonating with an unshakable authority, carried effortlessly. "My name is Jonathan Hayes, United States Secretary of Education. Maya Hayes' father." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "This morning I came to bring my daughter lunch. Instead, I witnessed federal crimes, civil rights violations, child abuse." He connected his phone to the projection system. The video, 28 minutes of unvarnished truth, filled the massive screen. Patricia's voice boomed. "Scholarship trash doesn't sit at premium tables." The slap, the shove, the casual cruelty. The students watched themselves, their teachers, their administrators, the very system they had normalized. Some cried openly, others looked away in shame. A few, overwhelmed, vomited. The video ended. Silence, thick and heavy, crushed the room. "Patricia Whitmore and Principal Anderson are now in federal custody," Jonathan announced, his voice slicing through the heavy air. "They face 5 to 10 years in prison for civil rights violations." A girl in the audience collapsed. Teachers rushed to catch her. Every staff member who witnessed discrimination will be interviewed by the FBI. Every student who participated faces disciplinary action. Every parent who supports this faces questions. Jonathan's eyes swept across the stunned crowd, his gaze unwavering. This school received $12 million in federal funding last year, money that came with legal requirements, equal treatment, equal access, equal dignity. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "You violated every single requirement. Your funding is frozen. If we find misappropriation, administrators face fraud charges. If we confirm systematic discrimination, you lose accreditation. This school could close permanently." Teachers sobbed openly, their careers ending, their reputations crumbling before their eyes. "But first," Jonathan continued, his voice gaining a new edge, "right now, today." He pointed to Maya, who stood with a small group of other students of color, their faces a mixture of fear and dawning hope. "Every student who was segregated and abused will receive a public apology," Deputy Secretary Carter stepped forward. "Students of color who experienced discrimination, please come to center court." 14 students, hesitant at first, moved forward slowly, years of being told to stay back, making this act of defiance surreal. Maya, her head held high, walked with them. Children of all ages, all carrying the same silent pain. Jonathan addressed the crowd, his voice raw with emotion. "Look at them. These children came here to learn, to grow. You destroyed them daily, systematically." He knelt before Maya, his heart exposed. "Baby, I'm sorry. Sorry I didn't know. Sorry I didn't see. Sorry I failed to protect you." Maya collapsed into his arms, months of suppressed pain erupting, months of silence, months of shame that was never truly hers. "I've got you now," Jonathan whispered, holding her tight. "Nobody will hurt you again." The gymnasium erupted, not in applause, but in a cacophony of crying, guilt, and raw realization. Jonathan stood, addressing the school once more. Starting today, everything changes. A new administration takes over tomorrow. Federal monitors will be present daily. Every policy will be reviewed. Every practice examined. He looked at the staff, his gaze stern. Those of you who stayed silent, who looked away, who enabled this, you have one chance. Cooperate fully with investigators. Tell the truth. Help us understand how this happened, or face charges as accessories. He looked at the students, his voice firm. Those who participated in harassment, you'll complete mandatory counseling, community service, write formal apologies. Your college applications will include documentation of this incident and your remediation. Finally, he looked at the 14 students standing beside Maya. And these young people, they'll receive full scholarships, counseling support, academic assistance, everything this school should have provided from day one. He turned to leave, then stopped, looking back at the stunned crowd. One more thing, the cafeteria segregation ends today, permanently. Anyone who attempts to enforce it answers to the FBI. Jonathan took Maya's hand, leading her out of the gymnasium, past silent students, past crying teachers, past the broken system, into the sunlight, into freedom, into justice. The FBI investigation exploded within 48 hours. Agents interviewed 217 people, students, parents, former employees. The stories poured out like a broken dam, a torrent of suppressed pain and injustice. Maria Carter, deputy secretary, sat in a makeshift FBI headquarters at Piton, files covering every surface of her temporary desk. An agent dropped another thick folder onto the towering stack. Former student, graduated 5 years ago, same abuse, same Patricia Whitmore. Maria read the transcript, her stomach churning. How far back does this go? 12 years, maybe longer. 12 years of children traumatized. 12 years of systematic cruelty. The Department of Justice assigned lead prosecutor Sandra Williams to the case. A formidable woman, she had handled civil rights cases for 2 decades, but she had never encountered evidence so damning, so meticulously self-incriminating. They documented their own crimes, she declared, holding up a leather-bound journal. Patricia's discipline log. Listen to this. She read aloud, her voice tight with disbelief. Removed 3 diversity students from premium seating today. They need constant reminders of their place. If we don't maintain standards, these people will think they belong everywhere. Her team sat stunned. She wrote it down, dated it, signed it. Internal emails surfaced during the discovery process, painting an even darker picture. An email from Anderson to Patricia. Board? Asking questions about diversity funding. Keep scholarship students visible in photos but separated in practice. Donors complaining about too much mixing. Patricia's chilling response? Understood. Good families shouldn't tolerate integration during lunch. That's what they pay for. A comprehensive financial audit revealed massive fraud. Piton had claimed 52 diversity students for federal funding, but the actual number was a mere 15. Where did the $9.4 million disappear to? Administrator bonuses, facility upgrades for donor wings, nothing for the students it was meant to serve. New charges were swiftly filed. Wire fraud, conspiracy to defraud the United States, false statements to federal agencies. Bail was set at $500,000 each. Neither Patricia nor Anderson could meet it. They were transferred to federal detention. Patricia's first lawyer quit after 2 weeks. I can't defend this, he confessed, throwing up his hands. She wrote down her crimes. The second lawyer lasted barely a month. Every day another victim comes forward. We're drowning. The trial began 6 months later in a federal courthouse, swarming with media, a national sensation. 17 families joined as plaintiffs, seeking not just damages, but justice, and, perhaps most importantly, acknowledgement. The first witness called was Maya Hayes. She walked to the stand, 13 now, taller, stronger, but still carrying a palpable weight of past trauma. Prosecutor Sandra Williams approached gently. Maya, please tell the jury about your first day at Piton. Maya described the initial excitement, the crisp new uniform, the boundless hope. Then lunch. Patricia grabbing her arm, shoving her to the corner, being called scholarship trash. I didn't tell my dad, Maya confessed, her voice trembling, because I thought it was my fault. I thought if I worked harder, was quieter, smaller, maybe they'd let me sit with everyone else. Did that work? No. Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. It got worse. Patricia made examples of us, called us out publicly, reminded everyone we didn't belong. Her voice broke. The worst part wasn't the words. It was watching teachers do nothing, watching parents agree, realizing the whole system was built to hurt us. Patricia, seated at the defense table, stared at her lap, refusing to meet Maya's gaze. Maya testified for 3 hours. The jury, many of them parents themselves, cried openly. Next, Miguel Rodriguez, 15, Latino. Patricia wouldn't let me use the bathroom during lunch. Said diversity students had designated times. I had to wait 90 minutes. I wet myself. He broke down, sobbing. She made me clean it up while everyone watched. I transferred schools. I still have nightmares. 14 students testified, each with similar, heartbreaking stories, all traumatized, all carrying scars. Former teacher Ashley Morrison, a white woman in her mid-30s who had quit 3 years prior, also testified. I tried to stop it once. Patricia went to Anderson. He told me if I wanted to keep my job, I'd remember who paid my salary. The diversity students weren't those people. What did you do? I quit, Ashley confessed, her voice filled with regret. I've regretted my silence every day since. Jonathan testified as an expert witness, explaining the devastating psychological impact of segregation on developing brains. These children internalize that they're inferior, unworthy, that their very existence is a burden. It affects academic performance, mental health, their entire sense of self. He looked directly at the jury, his gaze powerful. My daughter told me she wished she could disappear. Stop existing, because existing meant taking up space she didn't deserve. That's what Piton did to her. The defense called no witnesses. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, damning. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts. Sentencing came 3 weeks later. Patricia Whitmore stood before Judge Martinez, a black woman who had grown up poor, fighting through a system designed to crush her. Mrs. Whitmore. The judge's voice resonated with cold authority. You targeted vulnerable children who trusted institutions to protect them. You weaponized your position to inflict maximum psychological harm. A pause, allowing the words to settle, to pierce. 5 years in federal prison, no early release. Lifetime ban from working with children. $1.2 million in restitution. Patricia collapsed, guards catching her before she hit the floor. Anderson received 3 years, $800,000 restitution, and a lifetime education ban. 3 other administrators received probation, their careers over, reputations destroyed. The civil case settled for $22 million from the school's insurance, and another $8 million from Piton's liquidated assets. But money wasn't the true victory. Transformation was. Piton Academy fired its entire administration. They hired Dr. Jennifer Washington, a black woman with 25 years of fighting for equity, as the new principal. Within 1 year, the school boasted 40% students of color. Real diversity, real integration, real change. The cafeteria was renovated. All premium seating was removed. It became one community space, renamed the Maya Hayes Justice Hall. 8 months later, Congress passed the Educational Equity and Transparency Act. Journalists dubbed it Maya's Law. It required all private schools receiving federal funds to report demographic data, seating arrangements, discipline rates, and resource allocation. Everything became transparent, monitored. Violations meant immediate funding loss, federal investigation, and criminal prosecution. Within 2 years, 47 schools self-reported violations, 12 lost accreditation, 3 closed permanently. The Department of Education created a national hotline. Students could report discrimination anonymously. Trained counselors responded. Federal investigators followed up. In the first year alone, 3,000 reports were made. The problem was bigger than anyone imagined. Netflix produced a documentary, Lunchroom Justice, The Piton Case, an Emmy winner and required viewing in education programs nationwide. Footage of Patricia's arrest played on a loop, her words, her actions, her collapse, a cautionary tale in high definition. Maya appeared at the end, 14 now, confident and strong. What happened to me happens to thousands of kids every day. My dad had the power to fight back. Most families don't. That's why Maya's Law matters. It gives everyone that power. The documentary ended with a call to action, a website, a movement, students across America sharing their stories, The silence was breaking. Finally. Completely. Permanently. Patricia Whitmore became exactly what she feared most. Not a symbol of standards and excellence, but a symbol of shame, of hatred, of everything wrong with institutions that claim inclusion while practicing exclusion. Her name would live forever, but not the way she wanted. As a warning, as a lesson, as proof that justice, though sometimes slow, eventually comes for those who hurt children. 3 years later, Maya Hayes stood at the podium in Piton Academy's revitalized auditorium. Not the scared 12-year-old who ate lunch in shadowed corners, but a confident 15-year-old who had, against all odds, helped change the world. Valedictorian, perfect GPA, Harvard early admission with a full scholarship. She looked out at the audience, students, parents, media, her father beaming in the front row. 3 years ago, I wanted to disappear, she began, her voice strong and clear, devoid of any hesitation. I thought if I could just be smaller, quieter, invisible, maybe the pain would stop. My father came to bring me lunch, she continued. Just lunch. A simple surprise. Instead, he discovered I was living in hell. And he had a choice. He could have taken me home, transferred me somewhere else, made the problem go away quietly. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the faces in the audience. But he didn't. He chose justice. Not just for me, but for every child suffering in silence. The audience erupted in applause. Maya waited for silence. Patricia Whitmore is in prison. Principal Anderson is banned from education forever. The system that protected them is dismantled. Maya's law is changing schools across America. She looked directly at the camera. But the work isn't finished. 3,000 kids reported discrimination in the first year after Maya's law passed. 3,000. That's 3,000 families who needed my father's power to fight back, who needed federal law to protect their children. Her eyes blazed with a fierce conviction. Discrimination thrives in silence. It dies when we speak, when we document, when we refuse to accept that cruelty is normal. Maya stepped back. Jonathan joined her on stage, father and daughter, warriors for justice, standing together. Jonathan took the microphone. I came to bring my daughter sandwiches, turkey and Swiss, extra pickles. I left with evidence that destroyed careers, that changed laws, that transformed an institution. His voice softened, a hint of vulnerability. But I failed, too. 7 months. Maya suffered for 7 months before I knew, before I saw. That failure haunts me. He looked at the parents in the audience. How well do you know your child's daily reality? Not what they tell you, but what they actually experience. The humiliations they hide, the pain they carry, the dignity they sacrifice to protect you from worry. A heavy, uncomfortable, undeniable silence filled the auditorium. Go to their school unannounced, eat lunch with them, watch how adults treat them, watch how other students treat them. Don't trust brochures, don't trust promises, trust your eyes. Jonathan held up his phone. This device recorded 28 minutes that changed everything. 28 minutes of evidence, that's all justice needed. He pointed at the audience. You have that power too. Document, record, report. The national hotline is 1-800 Maya Law. Anonymous, confidential, action guaranteed. Maya returned to the microphone. Piton is different now. Dr. Washington transformed this place. The cafeteria that broke me is now named for me. The corner where I cried is gone. Everyone sits together. Everyone belongs. She smiled, genuine, radiant. I love this school now. That's the proof. The girl who wanted to disappear now stands here proud. That's what real change looks like. The auditorium rose to its feet. Applause thundered. Phones recorded. This moment would go viral. It already was. Jonathan and Maya walked off stage together, past the spot where Patricia once stood, past the office where Anderson made his calls, past the cafeteria entrance where everything changed. Outside, news crews waited. Jonathan gave a final statement. 3 years ago, I witnessed injustice that left me speechless. Today, I'm not speechless anymore. None of us should be. When you see wrong, speak. When you see cruelty, act. When you see children suffering, become the adult they need. He squeezed Maya's hand. My daughter taught me that. She survived. She thrived. She transformed her pain into power. Every child deserves that chance. The cameras captured it all. This would play on every news channel, every social media platform. The story that wouldn't die. Because it shouldn't die. Because thousands of children still needed rescue, still needed adults who wouldn't look away. Jonathan and Maya drove away from Peton, the school where her nightmare began, where justice prevailed, where hope rebuilt itself from ashes. Maya looked at her father. "Dad, do you think we really changed things?" "Yes," Jonathan replied, a thoughtful pause. "But not enough. Not yet." "Then we keep going," Maya said, a new resolve in her voice. "We keep going." The car disappeared down the road toward whatever came next. Toward more fights, more victories, more children saved. Because one lunch visit changed everything. One father who refused to stay silent. One daughter who refused to stay invisible. One moment of courage that shattered decades of cruelty. Now it's your turn. Share this story. Let it spark conversations. Let it make people uncomfortable. Let it force examination. Subscribe to Blacktail Stories for more stories where justice wins, where the powerless gain power, where wrongs are righted. Follow the movement. Join the fight. Be the witness who doesn't look away. Most importantly, answer these questions honestly. Where are the Patricia Whitmores in your community? What segregation exists that everyone pretends not to see? When you witness injustice against a child, what will you do? Will you look away and let it continue? Or will you be the person who changes everything? Your answer matters. Your choice matters. Your courage matters. Because somewhere right now, a child is sitting in a corner, eating lunch alone, believing they deserve it. What will you do about it?